Welcome to September's third Thursday training with Schwanke. I'll let Allie introduce herself here in a minute, but I do have a couple housekeeping items for you guys. Don't forget to mark your calendars for next year's Marketech conference. If you were fortunate enough to be at this year's, you'll know exactly why we're telling you to get registered now. We're more than likely to sell out this year. We had over 300 attendees last year, so this is going to be a great opportunity for you. So it's April 15th, 2020. So don't forget, get it on your calendar, get registered. It's going to be awesome. We have some great speakers coming. Also, I just want to mention that we are a Grow with Google high impact partner. This is really important. So if you guys have any needs, Google related, whether it's with your maps or getting a website or getting found on Google, feel free to message us. My contact information will be on the screen at the end of the presentation. And our featured member this month is L2 for Kids. I'm not sure if they were able to hop on today. I am unmuting everybody. L2 for Kids, are you there?
Yes.
Awesome. Do you want to go ahead and give us a little bit of information about your business?
Anyway. No, you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, absolutely. Go for it.
What we do is we raise money for kids and we stop and buy them clothes. It's all brand new, and the kids can qualify to school from K to 12, and no other way for new clothes. And that's basically all it is. We are a nonprofit 501c3, and all the money we raise goes back into the kids. No one gets paid. It's strictly a volunteer. We help the kids. We have councils like the town where we have our tech towns on their own. We have 15 of those, and we helped kids in about 34 different towns last year, and somewhere around 900 kids as of now this year. And that's pretty much what we do.
Awesome. So I know some of you were having a hard time hearing Pat. That's okay. I do have a little bit about L2 for Kids too, so I'm going to mention just a little bit about them in case you missed it. So a brief description from their website is, imagine how you would feel getting shoes and brand new clothes for the very first time. It's a feeling that has been shared with many underprivileged children over the past years of building L2 for Kids across central Nebraska. With the help of local churches, counselors, and school personnel, applications are given to the parents of children needing school clothes. Based on a family's application of need received by L2 for Kids, each child in grades K through 12 are offered a one-time shopping trip to purchase new school clothes. So it's a great organization. If you want to learn more, visit l2forkids.org, and I'm sure they would love to be in touch with you if you'd like to help out. So now it's time for the Woman of the Hour. I'm going to go ahead and let Allie share her screen now. Why she is doing that, I do have just a couple more things here. It is a casual webinar today, so if you have any questions while Allie is presenting, please raise your hand, chat directly to me or the group, and we'll be sure to get it answered as quick as possible or at the end during Q&A. If for some reason we run out of time and there isn't enough time for Q&A, please, there will be me and Allie's contact information at the end of the presentation. So feel free to message one of us or email one of us, and we'd be happy to work and get that question answered for you. Allie, I'm going to go ahead and let you take it away. Please give us a brief introduction before you get rolling.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Well, everybody, thanks for the invitation to be here today. I think I came back last year about this time to do a webinar with everybody about marketing hacks. So if you haven't had a chance to check that one out, I believe it's on the Grow Nebraska YouTube channel. I'm the founder of Simple Strat. We're a marketing agency based in Lincoln, and we really focus on helping you get to the next level using marketing and sales. A lot of times companies, when they grow, they're looking at strategic things they need to do in order to grow their business, and it just comes down to understanding some of the things we're going to talk about today. So I'm really excited to talk to you. I looked through the attendee list of who's on the webinar today, so please do not feel nervous about using the chat pane, because if we need to take off and answer some questions right specifically on this webinar, we will do just that. Intending to be super valuable for you today. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of where we're headed. So this is the obstacles that we're out to, objectives we're out to tackle. Learn what obstacles most people face. Now, when we say most people, this is going to be, for Grow Nebraska, the majority of members, they may have a marketing person or two, but a lot of those marketing responsibilities tend to fall on someone who, to use the adage, they wear a lot of hats. So if you're on this webinar and you're thinking marketing is just one of the 50 things that I have to do this week, that's one of the things we're going to tackle here on this webinar. DIY tactics that every business owner or entrepreneur, or if marketing is in your job title in some way, shape, or form, we want to talk about some of those DIY tactics, realizing that there's definitely different things we're each gifted with, and marketing is one of those very vague terms that means a lot of things to a lot of people, so we're going to break that down. And we're going to talk about when to do things in-house and when to look externally. I'm not here on this webinar to convince you to do anything with any vendor, definitely not here to sell to you. What I am here to help you do is think about resource allocation and think about the way that you need to look at investing of both time and money. So I'm excited to talk through and give you some frameworks to think about that a little bit more. And then again, moving into a framework to help you make better decisions with your marketing. This might also just be decisions about your business as well. So hopefully if you're involved in marketing even a little bit, we're going to talk about the business as a whole, because promoting value and getting more customers is obviously the purpose of a business. So let's go ahead and dive in to our next slide here. Again, just a reminder of what's on your mind. Jesse's managing that chat pane, so she'll bring those questions to us at the end. Jesse, if you have any questions that come up while I'm on a specific slide, go ahead and just let me know and interrupt me, and we can tackle them right while we're in the heat of the moment. If you're the tweeting type, there's some handles down there at the bottom that you can also tweet and follow along there on Twitter. So the reality of marketing is that we think of marketing as the things that we see. We see the outputs. We think, especially in today's world, we think, what should I post on Facebook? Or what do I send in an email? Or, what type of information do I need to gather from a customer when they buy in order to market to them in the future? And that last comment about what data I need is getting a little bit closer to some of the things that are under the surface. So when I look at marketing, I often use this analogy here. And the iceberg analogy, if you've been in, leadership development, or you've been in different business scenarios, the iceberg is one that, is used a lot to illustrate that we have so much under the surface that we need to work on. But we typically think about this thing right here at the top. We think about what your audience sees. And instead, we need to also think about all the things that make it possible to drive the things that the audience sees. So this is a graphic that was borrowed from Williams Whittle. They did a good job of putting this together. But all the things here on the bottom are the delivery mechanisms, the channel mechanisms. We might find out today on this webinar that, there's a channel that you're using that you should probably just let it die, let it go away, or call it off as ineffective altogether. Because we spend a lot of our time creating content now that we don't have any more time to create content on a network or in a way that doesn't get anybody to engage with it. So if you have specific questions about a channel related to that, drop that in the chat pane. I want us to think about, we're going to spend some time here talking through these pieces on the bottom that are a little more foundational. And we're doing that because we can't answer the DIY tactics. We can't answer some of the how to make better decisions if we don't have a good handle on the way marketing is defined and how you think about it in your business. Because again, at the end of the day, it's not what do I post on Facebook? It's a much more comprehensive, what are the actions that I need to do to communicate to my audience, to drive continual value with specific things I ask them, actions they take in order to transact in a way that results in sales. So for the purposes of what we're going to define, I want us to think about marketing. This is the definition from the American Marketing Association. So essentially, it's very dictionary-ish. We're promoting and selling products or services, including market research and advertising. So if you do a quick search on marketing and advertising jobs, this is a good indicator. If you do that on monster.com, what you end up finding is there's, someone said this about a month ago, they said, you know, I'm looking for a marketing job, but all I'm finding is marketing jobs disguised as sales jobs. And the reason for that is because all of these are so intertwined that it's difficult to know what is marketing, where does it start, where does it stop, what is sales, what is advertising. So for the purposes of what we're looking at today, I want us to define it like this: the process of getting people interested in your products or services. So if you have a sales team, you know, the goal of that sales team is going to be to close that lead or close that person interested in doing business with you into transacting that in the form of a sale. If we're looking at marketing, let's say we're looking at, you know, content marketing, the idea that someone's going to come to your website, grab a free ebook or grab a free resource, and then immediately become a customer is pretty ludicrous. You know, we don't go on a date with someone and then the next day get married. There's all sorts of reality shows that try and do that, and it's just a big hot mess. And so that's not how we buy products or services. So for marketing, we're going to talk about getting people interested. So what I want to do next is jump to the 7 P's of marketing. So we're if you studied marketing in college, or, you know, in any sort of business class, if you took the SCORE class, they talk about marketing. We originally started with the 4 P's of marketing, which were these 4 on the left. We have the price, place, process, product. We're going to break down each one of these because how you think about these, I'm going to give you some very critical things to think about, because these things are things that create obstacles in your business, because all we want to do is we want to jump to this promotion. What do I do to promote my business? But you know what? There's things in each one of these P's here that affect this success and might actually be what I would call promotion in disguise. So I'm pretty excited to show you some examples of what that looks like. But for the 7 P's here, some interesting things about this is these 3, this physical evidence, people, and process, those 3 have come up in recent years because there's so much to do about how we serve the customer and what that process looks like. We've all been into businesses that have people working, and you know what? People are even the reason or the reason we do or we don't come back. So let's dive into this and go through this relative to your business. So let's dive in first about product. Now, product is what you offer to the market. So if you happen to be, let's say, a service business or maybe even a chamber of commerce, the product that you offer to the market is, you know, it might be membership, it might be that you're lobbying to help them do greater things. The product still has to be positioned in a way that it makes sense to the end user or makes sense to the customer. So the interesting thing about product is these are things that shift based on, you know, what people expect from the market. So for instance, you know, it was okay 20 years ago for us to go rent a video at Blockbuster. And the product was, you know, video rentals. Now the product is video rentals, but how we get that product through the process is much different. And one would argue that Netflix does not actually share video rentals the way Blockbuster did, but instead it's giving you the ability to entertain yourself anywhere on the planet. So the product then is the benefit, and it's delivered differently. So what I want you to think about relative to your business is having a bad product is one of the things that, I mean, it's definitely not something marketing can fix, but I want you to think about signs. Do we have repeat customers or churn? So if one of your obstacles is, man, you know, my marketing's never working, I just can't quite figure out what to do. Do you have people out there that are singing your praises? If you don't, and if there's constant churn, we probably have to talk about this thing called product market fit. Product market fit implies that the product that I've created fits with the needs, and my audience is prepared to pay me in exchange to solve that need or feed that aspiration, such in the case of maybe, you know, like makeup or things like that, or candles. The other thing to think about is there something that I could build into the product to have it market itself? I have a couple of examples on the next slide that I'll walk you through that is a way to think about this. And then, is there an iteration I could offer to open up a new market? So if you think about, you know, people who have entered the market with, you know, for example, again, Netflix is an example of a product. They started, again, with a DVD that you would get mailed to you. They became a streaming service, and now they've realized that they've got this really rich data experience that they can, build an intense value around. And so they've got their own production team. Now they've got Netflix branded movies. So the iteration of your product becomes a natural way for you to grow the effectiveness of your marketing. And this is one of my favorite sayings here: nothing kills a business faster than great marketing of a poor product. So keep that in mind. Make sure that before you really put your pedal to the metal on promoting your product or service, ensure that you have, there's also things like, how do you ensure that there's upsell opportunities? How do we ensure that when someone comes through the door, we've got their next transaction already mapped out and we're thinking about what that next value point is? So examples of how this works from a standpoint of things that we use every day. Dropbox was one of the first companies, Hotmail I think was probably actually the first company, but they are marketing the product through the product itself. So there isn't, Dropbox did now, I'm sure, spends a lot of money on marketing, but when they first launched, the way that they tended to get more users was they promised a free gigabyte with the Dropbox request. So I was new to Dropbox before the majority of my network was. So I knew that at the time I had a photography business, and I knew that photos take up a ton of space. So if I was going to use Dropbox and I could get every single family that I photographed to use Dropbox to get copies of their photos after they purchase them, that's, X number of people a week that are signing up. And then I end up getting loads and loads of gigabytes of free space. And so I am doing the marketing for Dropbox as a customer without any additional promotion. So are there ways in your product that you can get people to do the marketing for you based on the value your product provides? Referral codes are a good example as well. I'm a user of Instacart. Anytime someone says, hey, I've got to go to the grocery store, I say, I don't go to the grocery store. I use Instacart. They say, what is that? And I say, tell you what, I'm going to send you a code. You'll get $10 off and I'll get $10 toward my next purchase. So things to think about relative to product. All right, so price is how much customers are willing to pay you. So can you bundle your products or services together? It's incredible how much we think about price without thinking about it. So when you go to the grocery store, there's a reason why retailers will sell things $3 for $5. Even though I shop at, when I don't use Instacart, I go to a nearby Super Saver where I live here in Lincoln. And I know that you can buy each of those products individually. You don't have to buy 3, but the majority of people buy 3 because it's 3 for $5. So is there a way you can bundle your products or services? Or if someone gets service X, they get this as if this comes free, and they always got it for free. But now that you're positioning it as a free product or a free add-on, it changes the value proposition. How do discounts prompt action or no discounts? So JCPenney was a good example of this. They had a CEO come in and say, you know what, we're done with the discounts. We're just going to have everyday low prices. Well, their audience was used to having discounts. That's what prompted them to continually come back in the store. In my opinion, you were foolish to ever buy anything at JCPenney or even Kohl's now without a coupon or cash, Kohl's cash. But that's part of their value proposition. So if you don't discount it, then there's this Chanel never discounts their products because they've got a feeling of luxury, and it contributes to the price people are willing to pay. When I use Chanel or have Chanel, any of that then tells a message to my audience of what it looks like for me to have this product. And then annual versus monthly payments is a good way to think about how we perceive price. So think about, I have a slide that follows this to point this out, but even think about your favorite bag of chips. When you're buying chips at the store, it's less than $3, but the volume might have changed. So it's not uncommon for me to say, wow, this bag looks smaller, but yet, you know what? I actually didn't know how many ounces were in the former bag unless I had a bag at home. So consumers remember price. This is an example of a couple of ways that price is explained here. So we've got price billed monthly, and then we've also got our most popular plan. This helps me from a psychological perspective say, oh, this is interesting. Well, I don't want to be an outlier. I want to kind of follow what people have found to be helpful. And then we've got a free trial to help mitigate some of that risk if they don't fit in these packages above. So again, price is a huge part of your marketing mix and one we should take seriously. The place is how you sell. So place is both if you have a brick and mortar store as well as a website. So it's not uncommon for us to spend extraordinary amounts of time to make sure that our stores look good or our physical locations look good. But man, you could get lost in 5 seconds on a website. So we have to think about place in both ways. The other thing to think about with place is place used to be actually called distribution. Now, because marketers are marketers, they change distribution to place so that all of the marketing P's have a P. It can't be the 6 P's and a D. So they changed it to place. So are there referral partners or strategic partners that you could put in place that would strengthen your efforts and then decrease the need to do a lot of promotion because they're doing the referrals for you? Another thing about place, I hear this a lot. When people type X into Google, I want them to find me. That is very, very important. If you can't be found on the internet, you don't exist on the internet. It's kind of like that tree falling in a forest. So can people find me? Does the place match the brand? Do you have an excellent, beautiful, clean, lively store in person? And does your website look like it was built, 10 years ago? We do that to update our physical brand. We have to do the same of our digital brand. So again, place used to be distribution. Promotion, this is the thing that most people think about when they think about marketing. We're creating awareness and generating interest in the product. Things that we want to keep in mind here. I see a lot of marketing where it's more like the Horton Hears a Who. We are here. We are here. Come buy from us. We are here. And instead, we need to think about promotion from a scarcity urgency. Promotion is really about those psychological tactics that we need to use in order to generate interest. We do this every single day. When in social medias that we use are very, very good at creating this FOMO or fear of missing out. They're also really good at creating time-bound offers, which is also back to that Kohl's Cash. It expires. Since it expires on this day, I better go in and use it or I've basically lost money. You actually haven't lost money. It's mostly like the stock market where you don't actually lose money unless you cash out. So scarcity and urgency are huge to drive action. How do I create a perceived need? So when people think they've got their problem solved, they might not actually be interested in your product. So there's times we have to, from a promotion perspective, create the need that they didn't know that they had. So, when we're talking about things like we're actually working on a marketing software here at Simple Strats, marketers might not know they need this software because they've been solving their problem with a complex set of spreadsheets and all these different tools band-aided together. When we explain that, man, if you're spending all this time doing this the hard way, why don't you just do this? We're creating that perceived need, and then we've got scarcity in play to be one of the first people to get the product, get it at a special price, so on and so forth. And then promotion also comes down to what channels make sense for my customers. If someone says, you know what, I was on this webinar last week and people were on social media, so I have to be on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and TikTok. That's bogus. You have to be on the channels that make sense for your customers. You might need to do what's called look alive social. That's what we call it here, is make sure there's a post at least once a month on that social. So if someone goes there, they know you're still in business, because that does happen. They'll question if you're in business if there hasn't been posts for a while. But if not, spend all your time and resources on the channels where you're going to get a return. So this is where you can create extreme uniqueness. Think about things like, Dollar Shave Club, where the way that they promoted their product through really funny videos, through cheeky copy, and the way that their programming worked, a lot of it for them came down to process too. But this is really the essence of the personality of your brand and the way you drive interest. This is a part where, if anybody says, I don't really know what to do to promote my brand, spend some time thinking about what you already react to from a marketing perspective from other companies. So some examples. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We did have somebody mention Google My Business. Do you want to mention quickly the importance of having a Google My Business account?
Yeah, absolutely. So Google My Business is, it's gone through a lot of iterations in the last several years, especially as a local business. If you have a tool that's only sold online or a software company, Google My Business isn't going to be an answer for you. But for most people here on this webinar, Google My Business has a couple of advantages. One is the content on Google My Business does get indexed. So Google My Business has the opportunity for you to claim your location, make sure all the information you put out about your business is accurate and up to date. If you don't claim it and keep it up to date, Google is going to try and fill in the gaps because it wants to serve users with the answer to their question, which is, hey, I'm looking for an auto body shop in Grand Island. And if you don't manage that page, it's going to basically find stuff on the internet and just give it what give the user what they think is accurate. So the other thing about that is when Google My Business is integrated, if you're running any sort of Google ads, like ads that show up on Google Maps, ads that show up on search, it's going to integrate, you can integrate it with that location page. So then it can show the user right on that map when they're searching, hey, here's an ad for my business and here's where I'm located. So it's very, very important to a business. And again, it's free to set it up. And there's even a mobile app where you can go in and add, change your hours, make it all really easily accessible right from your phone.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure. So the promotion examples I have for you here are, there's a Facebook ad for Cornell. This is an example of, there isn't any specific promotion, like time-bound things on here, but it's the way they write this: SEO, SEM, social content, email. Do you speak the language? So the question here for the user is, well, what if I don't know what those mean? If I don't know what those mean, I probably need to go get my digital marketing certificate. So apply now. This one for State Farm, again, discount up to 30% if you drive safe. So it's an incentive for you to get involved. Love this promotion from Chipotle. Score a $3 burrito on Halloween if you dress up in a costume. And then we've got the famous one that just rolled out a couple of weeks ago, that if Nebraska wins the National Conference Championship, you get a free year of internet. This is one of those, it's definitely gotten people to talk. And it's got it's even got controversy around it, which is a good thing to get people engaged in it. All right, physical evidence. We'll run through this one pretty quickly, because this one is a lot about creating brand familiarity. The more people see a brand, the more familiar they get with it. The more they hear from a brand, the more they get familiar with it. And brand consistency is, if you haven't done this yet, I would encourage you after this webinar to go find all of the instances of ads you've run, collateral that you have, any Facebook posts or LinkedIn posts, whatever the social are, and put them on one screen or put them in one room and say, do these look all alike, or does it look like a lot of different people and different messages and different colors and versions of your logo are flying around? Because that is a recipe for distrust. And then we have to, in today's environment, I often talk about it's either you Google something and then ask a friend for their feedback, or you ask a friend for their recommendation and then you Google their recommendation. So since we have this like two-sided word of mouth environment, we have to have social proof at every step that says people like me found value with products or services like this. So even if you're a service business, again, if you're a chamber of commerce, I need to see, if I'm a marketing agency owner, I need to see that there are other marketing agencies finding value in membership. If you sell insurance, I need to understand that you don't treat me like a number. I need, like, all of those things are very important. If I can't find social proof, I'm going to ask around. And the worst thing about asking around is if no one else is out there talking about your story for you, then it's crickets, and that's a bad sign. So make sure you have case studies and success stories to share. Don't worry about creating and making them look amazing. The best thing as a small business that you could do would be grab your cell phone, go out and grab some cell phone videos of just your customers and why they love coming in your store, or create a contest where they could get a $100 gift card if they send in X, Y, and Z. So that user-generated content is what we call it, and that stuff created on your cell phone, man, oh man, that stuff is so great because it says this wasn't produced and it's real. All right, so people, this one, we're not going to talk about people too much here because managing your culture is a whole different topic, but your experience, it affects your culture. If you haven't done this yet in the community that you're at, go on Facebook and see if there is I'm not sure what you would call it, but for instance, in Lincoln, there is a bad businesses group, Facebook group in Lincoln. I don't know where it came from, don't know who started it, but there's thousands and thousands of people who belong to this Facebook group. And the sole purpose of this group is to warn other people about bad services or bad businesses in Lincoln that they should avoid. So a lot of times if you go in that group and you find the common threads are, they didn't do what they said they were going to do. Their people treated me like crap. It was dirty, whatever that happens to be. Those are things that get talked about. So it's so incredibly important that your people provide a good customer experience. And, you know, the reason I'm asking you to go look for those groups on Facebook is not to join them and you know, get in there and rant about things, but it's more about look at the way people are talking about the customer experience and what you need to do to tighten that for your own company. So how do we, you know, the words that we say, think about companies like Chick-fil-A, you know, they always say, my pleasure, when you get a, you know, when they help you and you say, thank you, my pleasure, that contributes to the experience. And then how your values guide your actions, that's going to feed into the rest of how the customer feels. So this is an example of TurboTax, which I think is super interesting. This last year, their whole campaign was centered around to talk to a live person, which seems ludicrous, right? Like, who wouldn't talk to a live person? Well, we've built this culture of everything's done online, that their competitive advantage in the last tax season was honestly, we have real people. So if you have real people, let's play them up, let's feature them on social media, let's have them do the product spotlights or the videos every week, show the faces behind the company, because at the end of the day, we are not business to business, we are people to people. So keep that in mind as you think about your marketing. And then the last piece here, the actual process that you take to deliver the products or services to your customer. Is it easy to do business with you, or is it difficult to do business? I was talking to a coworker yesterday who talked about he was checking out at a local store and their credit card machines just never quite work right. And so he left there feeling so frustrated that, you know, went in there to get one or two things and ended up just with this story that every time it's super frustrating. That's not a positive feeling to leave with your customers. Do you need to simplify? Are there 7 steps to sign up for your service and you need to get it down to 3? Those are things to think about that we won't go too much here. And then do we need to use technology inside of your process? So for instance, do we need to have people be able to pay with a credit card when now you only accept checks? Most of that's gone by the wayside since we have things like Square and Stripe, but again, just food for thought here. And in this process, this is where all of the industries have been disrupted. We want a company, we think, okay, well, let's do what's best for us. You have to do what's best for the customer or you will be ripe for disruption. So these are examples of, you know, Amazon's got the 2-day shipping. Their process is what makes it possible for them to promise 2-day shipping, which then becomes the benefit that they promote to the customer. If you offer, you know, Apple Pay, it makes it easy for me as a customer to not worry about bringing my wallet. I can simply pay with my phone, and then I'm more likely to stop in and frequent that business because I can pay with my phone. Last one there is a e-signature document that it makes it easy as a service business that I don't have to download the proposal, sign it, scan it, send it back. Did you get it? Here it's just, this is a tool called PandaDoc. There's also e-signature. There's a lot of other ones that do it that make it possible to have a legally binding signature online. Again, ease the process, be the home of frictionless proposal signing. So before we jump into some of the DIY here, this is what we think about when we think about marketing. This is called the Hubspot flywheel. No longer is it just I'm attracting people to my business. I want to attract them, engage them, and then delight them as customers. So you can see we talk about marketing being marketing, sales, and service, and all of that has to live on a platform of a CRM, which for those of you that don't know what that means, it is a customer relationship management tool, which is essentially a way to say, let's have all of our data in one platform and one warehouse that we can use, because going forward, that's the thing that we need to segment our audience to have the right message to the right person at the right time. So as a side note, if you don't have a CRM yet, send me a note after this and I'll get you hooked up with HubSpot for free. Okay, so DIYM is do-it-yourself marketing. So the pros of DIY, they can be more affordable. I'll say can be. You already know the brand and there's tons of DIY tools these days. So, you know, whether that's, I love using Buffer, or I love using Hootsuite, or it's been so easy to do design because I can use Canva. Again, that stuff didn't exist 10 years ago. But the cons are the learning ramp to marketing itself is steep. You know, I've spent, 15 years in the industry learning all the things that we're talking about today. And just like any discipline, it takes time to get good and learn what you're doing and what works and what doesn't. Getting it wrong could cost you more than you gain. So there's been times that I've been with companies who their single obstacle is they can't see that they look like a small company, but they're trying to act like a big one. What the customer perceives you to be and how they define your brand according to what they see and hear and read is super important. And sometimes it's hard to see that when you're on the inside. And then skills and resource gaps. So if you happen to own, let's say a welding business, and you create, really beautiful door hangers for people, you should be really, really good at running your machines, knowing what the customer wants, pricing, all those things. But you probably shouldn't spend your time learning how to be a Google Ads whiz, because it's taking you away from the core competencies that you already have. So there might be skill gaps there. Now, the most common obstacles that I've seen over the years of people doing DIY marketing is they just don't know where to start. So not knowing where to start is that feeling of overwhelm. And what I would say here is, if you don't know where to start, usually the underlying root cause of not knowing where to start is because you're afraid of doing something wrong. Now, being afraid of doing something wrong is a hard thing to get over, but it is something that every single entrepreneur faces as well, not just with marketing, but you kind of feel with everything. Like if you invest in something, you kind of want to see your money come back. And unfortunately, the thing with marketing is there is no one size fits all. And if it worked for company A over here, when you apply it to your situation, it might be different. It's not uncommon for you to read an article about, the best way to do, let's say, Facebook ads, and then come to realize that article was written a year ago, and Facebook ads actually don't perform like that anymore. So not knowing where to start is actually let's really learn more about our customer. Let's learn what they find to be important. And the way to overcome this is go and talk to 3 to 5 customers this month and really get deep into what they are like. Not like, yes, you want to find out why they bought why they bought your product or service, or what made them come on board, but you really need to understand them in their life. Who do they trust? Where do they go? Where do they spend their time? What are the goals that they have in their life? What are the challenges they have in their life? There was an individual I was talking to about selling planners, and they were talking about, the planner does all these cool things, but when they actually found out about their audience, they found out that the majority of people that bought their planners were moms, and moms bought their planners because they were overwhelmed, because they have a million things going on, kids to get to practice, and dinners to make, and jobs to manage, and all of that kind of thing. So their messaging changed because they understood what was important to moms. And where was the one place the majority of moms, spend their time, outside of shuffling kids around? And it's Facebook. So let's not go on Instagram. Let's not go on LinkedIn. Let's not do these things. Let's focus all of our time and energy here. So back it up and really spend some time. If you have talked to 3 to 5 customers and you've been really diligent about understanding their world, and you don't have an insight that you can act on, there might be some things in that interview process that need some work. So do that. And if you don't know where to start, if you get insights there, what you should be able to do is then lay out a marketing plan and pick 2 or 3 things to start with. It's just like an exercise program. You have to pick a machine or a weight or something. You have to just get started. So if you need some help there, at the end of this presentation, I've got some resources. We've got a marketing plan guide built into our resource section. You can go and grab that for free and start mapping that out. Now, skill obstacles. When it comes to a skill, I'm going to preview this a little bit. We're going to jump into a decision-making model here in a couple slides that helps you analyze how to think about your skills. Because there was a study done, I'm not sure when or how long ago this was, but about drivers, and everybody rated themselves as an above average driver, which can't be true, because then who was an average or below average driver? But the same holds true for skills. Sometimes I think there's a false assumption that because I can publish a Facebook post on my own, I can do Facebook marketing for my company. When in fact, over the last 30 days, maybe you publish daily and you're still only getting a reach of 20 to 30 people per post. That's a skill gap, because what we should realize is, this isn't working. I don't really know how to get results on Facebook. I probably need to reach out and find someone to help me. I need to look at some courses, so on and so forth. So really take some time. If marketing is in your wheelhouse or in your job description, put together a list of what I think I'm good at and what I think I really stink at. And really be honest with yourself, because if you're already if you've already created some, they're maybe not big wins, but if they're small wins, let's say, you've sent a couple emails out and the open rate's been, 30, 40%. That's a pretty good open rate. You might be able to double down on that, focus more on honing those skills, and then pass off the ones that you aren't as good at. trying to do it all is one of the biggest obstacles that most people face, and realizing where to double down and where to delegate it out is probably the next step for you there. Focusing too much on the tactics. Marketing is really fun when you start doing things and creating things and publishing things, but not focusing on the foundation is going to be an obstacle. So you end up with what feels like a lot of activity, but you don't see a lot of results from it. So when we focus on the foundation, we focus on getting those things that anytime I talk to companies about their ideal buyer personas, or it's like your target audience, and then you narrow that down into a very specific person. Again, on those resources at the end of this webinar, we've got some persona building templates, but you understand what's most important about that person, and you understand things like buying triggers. Okay, getting, for example, we have a client that sells into the education space. You know what? People all year long who work in schools, they can see your stuff, but they're really only prompted to buy during the RFP season and getting things approved by budgets. So their triggers to buy and actually go forward in the sales process are doing those months. Those are the months we have to hit it hard. Those are the months that we need scarcity and urgency. Like, those are the times that's going to dictate a lot of our foundation rather than just churning out more and more things. And then the last obstacle is going to be budget, time, or money. Now, the reason I want you to think about the budget of your time is because there is no such thing as free marketing, even though on a lot of times we'll say, you know, how to do marketing on a shoestring. A lot of times that shoestring is tied to you and you are tied to the clock, because you need to have, there's an investment of time. So the best way to overcome this obstacle is we have to be willing to create I will not do that list. It is not worth my time. Or if I'm going to do that, we have to make it worth my time by doing these things. I think too easily, because we live in an environment where it's easy to, you know, spin up a flyer or host an event, because we have easy to execute tools like Eventbrite. We spend less time thinking about what is the return for my efforts of time. And if we thought about it that way, we say no to things that cost money, but we're quick to say things that take our time. So be thinking about that. If marketing's in your role and you're on this call, there's a good chance you have a million other things in your job as well, and time is one of those. So again, this is, if you want to go grab that marketing plan, you can grab that here at Plan. All the other resources are mentioned at the end. It's going to walk you through all of the pieces. It's going to have a lot of that foundational stuff in. This should be a communication thing with your team. If you don't have a documented marketing plan, I will tell you that is one of the biggest obstacles you have right now to doing really great with your marketing. And the obstacle right now is probably you putting it on your calendar and getting it done. Don't do it. Don't look for perfect. Don't try and teach a marketing class with it. Just get it done. And then if you're looking to work on some skill gaps, here's a couple of ideas for you as well. Udemy is one of the most just amazing platforms for you to go learn literally any skill. And it might be overwhelming when you get on the platform, because it's like, oh, there's 50 ways to learn, you know, Google Ads. If you do want to learn it, you know, just go look for the number of reviews and the number of people that have taken the course, and that'll give you a pretty good indicator of whether or not it's valuable. These over here are free. If you have a Shopify store, Shopify has an academy. Even if you outsource things eventually in your business, one of the worst things to do is to outsource to somebody and say, I don't know what I'm doing. You just do it all. The best way to delegate is to have at least an educated understanding of what you're expecting from them, and maybe build that together. But the Shopify Academy will help you get that. And then, you know, as an example, we have a HubSpot Hacks channel, which is a YouTube channel dedicated to teaching you how to use the platform HubSpot. And then this HubSpot Academy is teaching you essentially all of the different pieces of marketing and sales and now service. So this is all free if you Google HubSpot Academy. All right, so what essential skills as a business owner must you tackle? So we talked about this one. You must know your customer and regularly talk to your customer. If you don't know your customer, anybody you hire internally to do marketing or anybody you hire externally to do marketing is going to fail. You must have basic social media skills. So gone are the days when, hey, I just want you to handle all of it. Customers now expect us to reply on Facebook. They expect us to reply if we message them on, you know, Twitter. They expect a reply on you know, any platform that you're on. Know how to go in and do a basic, like, hey, we're closed. We had a water main leak and we're not going to be open for the next 24 hours. Those are things you have to master. Using and keeping up a CRM, you have to be able to have a place where all your data lives. If you use a POS system and you're like, ooh, I don't know if it integrates with the CRM. Those are more complex questions. Shoot me a note. I can get you some advice or insight on that, but you have to have a customer relationship management tool to manage all of those things back and forth. If you have a MailChimp account, you're close, but that MailChimp account you can't go in and add updates to customer records and add all the things you might need to manage that relationship. You need to be a basic copywriter. So much of what we do now is communicating through digital mediums. If you're not good at writing, you only get better by doing it. So don't be afraid, like, I don't know what to say. You know what? You are your own worst judge usually. So, take some basic social copywriting courses or copywriting course, or get some insight from a friend, and you'll get better by doing it. You must have sales skills. There's not any way you can get out of being in a role where you do marketing, where you don't also understand sales. And then speaking, creating content, if you're not familiar with this topic called thought leadership, so much of what we do now is online. And so again, back to that, like, I want to see a human face. If people see you talking about something that you have expertise in, even if you run a candle business, if you have expertise on how the candles are made, I'm much more likely to trust you. Therefore, I need you to be able to speak, whether that's into a camera or speak at an event. We can't be afraid to get in front of people and talk about the things that we have valuable. And then goal setting and delegation, those are leadership skills. If you're not able to delegate effectively, or if it's like set it and forget it, that is not delegation. Really, you have to work on those things as well. So a couple of frameworks to consider here. This is what I call the circle of competence, and this is one put out by Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett talks about this. What you know is actually here in the middle, and what you think you know is on the outskirts. So that is one of those places that these marketing obstacles find their way into your world, because you think you know it, and then you get into the problem or the situation, you're like, whoa, I really don't know what I'm doing. And that's okay. The realization of what you do with that is, hey, I've gotten myself in here into this area. Contractors in real life feel this, like, whoa, this person tried to do their bathroom and remodel it, and they really didn't know what they were doing. Have someone come. You don't need to hire an agency or a company to come help you. You might just need someone who knows that area of expertise to just chime in and say, hey, here's what it's going to take, and here's some ways to perceive it. So don't be afraid to ask for help, because this can be really deceiving. This is the Eisenhower matrix. Some call it the 4-quadrant urgent, not urgent, important, not important matrix. Whatever you call it, you've probably seen this before, but this is what you have to deploy if you have limited, actually, if you have, nobody has unlimited resources for marketing, but you have to deploy this when you're thinking about how to spend your time and money related to marketing. So this is mostly related to time. So if it's urgent and important, man, I don't have enough sales this month. This is an example that's deployed often by places like bakeries. Hey, we didn't sell a lot of the donuts for the day, so I'm going to do a flash sale of, hey guys, from 4 to 6, it's buy 1, get 3 free. You just want to get rid of inventory. So that would be something that would be urgent and important. Not urgent and important we have to do those customer research or promos. We have to do them, but I'm not going to sit down in the next 5 minutes and crank that out. That requires more thought and more planning. I'm going to schedule time to do that, and that's where it has to get on the calendar, has to get done. Urgent and not important. Hey, I know that we need to get Google ads up, and it's probably urgent, but it's not important today. So let's go ahead and delegate that out. That's where you might hire that, because it's never going to get on your important and urgent list. It's always going to be not important to you. And this is what I hear this a lot of, like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but it's the bottom of the priority list, If you find yourself saying things like that, and you know that it's going to drive value for your organization, this is a really good indicator of this needs to be delegated or hired out. And then not urgent, not important, why are you doing it? So that means that really critique and look at, this is where analytics are hugely important. Go back and look at, is this worth my time to spend on, daily social posts if only 20 people are seeing it? I might need to learn how to either create more engaging content. I might need to actually grow my audience because I only have 100 likes on my Facebook page. You are going to have only 20 people see it if that's the case. So anything that doesn't provide, we look at what we call a 10x return, but it has to be more than you're getting today. And then this last one is a benefits cost mitigation analysis. This is a little bit more complex. Of option A is I'm going to continue to do my marketing like this. Option B is here's how I might change what's the benefit of this? What are the costs of this? And how do I need to work through any problems that might come up? So think about those frameworks when you're talking about your obstacles. So to end you with some bonus ideas here, DIY things. These are things that you should be able to implement. They might end up on your important but not urgent list, but these are things that everybody on this call here should be able to execute. So pitch yourself to local media, radio, or a podcast. Local media love it when you have a great story to tell, and it really, the authenticity comes through when you pitch yourself. Shoot a weekly or monthly video with your latest socials, specials and promos. Again, that video content is really important to not only trip the algorithm on social networks, but when you create it every week, you then build this, hey, I'm going to show up every Monday and I'm going to give you these promos. So people come to expect it. Haphazardly, like, oh, I might just shoot a video today and then 6 months from now I'll shoot another one. That's not going to do what you need it to do. This is DIY. Again, do it with your smartphone. Create an offer, grow your email list of all of the DIY things that exist today. Growing your email list is still one of the most important things possible, because when someone says, I will give you my email address, they are giving you a key to their eyeballs, essentially. And especially if you honor that and only deliver content that they have signed up to get, you then build a high degree of trust. Email still converts much higher than most every other channel out there. Conduct a survey. You should be conducting a survey once a year with your customers anyway, but if you haven't done it for a while, this is very DIY. You can use SurveyMonkey, Google Forms, Typeform. There's all sorts of tools that you can put out there. Gather testimonials with this survey. Help fill that social proof gap that you might have. Plan out your seasonal promotions. We're now entering holiday promotions. You should have that planned out by the end of September if you haven't yet. So go ahead and sit down and do those things. You know what your customers are interested in. You might not be able to execute on all of the ad campaigns you might need to do to promote those, but figuring out what you're going to offer your customers, that's a DIY. Doing an event, partnering with charity, those are still really, really good. And those are widely respected as good ways to get leads in. Offering a referral incentive, that's a really good DIY technique. This one is definitely not you're going to do it and it's going to take 5 minutes of your time. But I tell you what, in a world where now we can quickly fire off an email, when you get a phone call to thank your customer, or when your customer gets a phone call from you thanking them for just being a customer, that stands out. And that human-to-human connection is huge. My husband got a phone call from the surgeon after he had hernia surgery about a month ago. And he gushed about that for a month, till today. And if any of his friends, need hernia surgery, he will recommend that surgeon hands down. Obviously had a good experience, but he's over the moon that he called and asked how he was doing. Join and be active in industry groups. Run a contest on your platform. If you need some insights on contest tools, shoot me a note, because there are some ones that make this a lot easier than simply the like and comment and share thing. And then apply for a business award. If you can win a local award, that has PR written all over it, and the awareness tends to increase from there. If you run a physical business, again, the last piece here is adding graphics to your vehicle, because you're always driving around. Just keep in mind, as a DIY technique, you can't drive like a crazy person if you have graphics in your vehicle, because they're attached to your brand. So free resources, this is the website link here to go grab those free resources. We've got a ton of them on there. And then email here if you have any questions, or you just want some more insight about some of the things we shared, or you have a specific problem. Yeah, go ahead and hit me up as you need to.
Awesome. Allie, well, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and unmute everybody. I know we answered a couple questions during the chat. So everybody's unmuted now. Does anybody have any questions for Allie? Okay, so someone just asked here, can you quickly talk about the key plans that we should do for our marketing efforts? We've attempted to put together a marketing plan, to do a communication plan and social media plan after that, and a social media content calendar under the social media plan. Are there other plans we should be doing, and how do we get all of these to tie together? Sorry, Allie, I
You
had
got
you.
me? Okay. So the way we tend to look at marketing plans is there's the strategic groundwork of obviously understanding what's important to your audience, the buying triggers, the influential types of things. When it gets to communication plans, we're really looking at the channels that matter most to your audience, and then the frequency with which you communicate with them on those channels. So let's say, for example, in your marketing plan, you've got, okay, we're going to do a monthly email, and it's going to cover these topics for this reason. And social media then is an extension of that communication under that. So the social media content calendar does go under that whole marketing plan, but then you've got what you might call real-time social, where it's just, this is what we're doing today, and we're going to give people a behind the scenes look. We use a tool called Airtable. I'm not sure if everyone here has used Airtable or if you've used even just an Excel calendar. What we do is we just block the whole month. We've put those what we call big rocks in. So the big rocks in are, we're going to do an email every week, and we're going to do a promo email every 2 weeks, and we're going to do a Facebook post every 4 weeks. We're going to run an ad here, and we just block those out first. And then we spend time going back in and determining the content of those blocks, and then if we need to sprinkle in any additional things. So they are part of one plan, but the actual planning happens inside of an Excel doc. In the future, it will actually happen in this tool that we're building called Brand Plan. But the marketing plan itself then is a strategy that sits on top of that as to the why are we doing these things, and do those mediums make sense?
Awesome. And then I did have a question too, Allie. A lot of the people on may not know what like Hootsuite and Canva and those free tools are. Do you want to touch a little bit more on those since we have some time?
Yeah, sure. So I'll just, I think I can jump in the chat here. So Hootsuite is one that you can, I think it's up to 3 profiles. You can set up to load social posts in advance. And Hootsuite even just now, it's fairly recent, but not too new. You can also post to Instagram, which you didn't used to be able to do on a lot of platforms. There's another tool called Buffer that does the same thing. So it's being a little bit more proactive about the social that you want to post, and then being able to load it and bulk your time, and then get a return long term, so you're not constantly in the tool every day. Canva is a tool that comes loaded with some design templates inside of it. You can build social media posts, you can build ebooks, you can build PowerPoint decks. It was designed for people who aren't, most of us aren't designers, and we don't know the first thing about design. So it creates a little bit less of a dummy-proof environment to create graphics for your business, which we are now a visual society. So, posting text doesn't quite work the way it used to. So you have to have a visual to go along with that.
Awesome. Yeah. And for anybody wanting more info on Canva, I mean, we use it for a lot here at Grow. These PowerPoint slides today that we have with our little brick wall, those are all made in Canva. It is a time saver, so we definitely recommend that as well. But I want to thank Allie for hopping on, because it was all great information. It looks like we do have one more question for Allie. This will be our last one before we finish up. I have a couple more things for the end. So Allie, it says, does the social media plan go into the marketing plan, or is this a standalone document? Can you recommend an example?
Yeah, so Hootsuite does have what they would call a social media strategy. I don't know if it's like in their learning section of their website, but you want to have a social media strategy first. And the strategy would cover things like, these are the social networks that we're going to be active on, and here's the reason why, and here's what we hope to get out of these networks. Because I see a lot of times that businesses will just gravitate to social networks because it's like they feel like they just should. So for example, at Simple Strat, our strategy document is going to cover, okay, on Instagram, the majority of our, SaaS company founders or, business owners that are, 50 plus are probably not going to be on Instagram. So why would we be on Instagram? Well, the reason we're on Instagram is we use Instagram as a way to showcase our company culture behind the scenes, and actually use it as a recruiting platform. So all the content that goes on Instagram from our strategy doc is going to be recruiting or culture or like fun things happening in our company specific. So when we actually then go into the social media calendar, the calendar then is going to ensure that when we write the content, does it fit into these buckets that we've established in the strategy? Yeah, so the strategy doc's gonna, she just asked in the chat, is the strategy doc you're talking about the marketing plan? The strategy document is much more of the marketing plan. I think that the confusion usually lies in, like, in my marketing plan, do I plan out every single thing that I'm doing? Yes and no. In the marketing plan, you want to plan out what I call your big rocks. But then when it comes to the specific execution of those rocks, you're probably going to have a tactical document that lives just below that. And I'm happy to, like, if anybody wants an example, I can email examples as well.
Awesome. Well, I just want everyone to remember that next month's T3 training is with Roy Norn, and it's on packaging design. So this is going to be a really cool one. He's going to kind of go over the ins and outs of creating like an engaging packaging and how to stand out on the shelves when your product is next to 1,000 other products that are probably either the same thing or similar. So it's going to be very interesting and very informational. So don't forget to join. You can join by going to grownebraska.org/trainings. And if you guys have any questions about today's training, or if you want to contact Allie or have another question for Allie, please feel free to email me at jessie@grownebraska.org or call at 308-233-1142, and we will set up an appointment with you as well. And that's all for today. So thank you everyone for joining the Grow Nebraska Foundation on this month's third Thursday training. Another shout out to Allie with Simple Strat for being today's presenter. If you have any questions, please let us know. Have a great day, guys.